Katherine, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, hi. So this is my first time here on the show. Thank you so much for having me. I've watched a few, and I love the diversity of format. I am Katherine, and I live in Vermont. I have a very diverse background in sales in various capacities on Wall Street, in sports, and nonprofits. And currently, I'm working with startup accelerators to maximize working with a lot of different companies. And I'm very excited to be here. Thank you.
Super. Jim.
Yes, Jim Evans from Dallas, Texas. Most recently, I was with Service Autopilot, a field service SaaS software. I was the senior sales leader there. We were acquired in Q3 last year, and I made my exit in May, and I'm looking for my next adventure.
Awesome. Awesome. Another person in Texas. Amy.
I know, Jim. We'll have to get together for coffee. Maybe we can do some introductions or something, or see what's next on the horizon for you. So, but yeah, so Amy Quick here. I'm a territory account manager for Fortinet here in Dallas, Texas as well. Yeah, I've had my hat in the sales arena for a long time, going on 16 years this year. So, and I've worked kind of across the board from inside sales and SDR stuff all the way up to enterprise. And currently I'm doing SMB sales, so really fast deal cycles, a lot of fun. And I'm looking forward to helping you out today, Ashish, and giving you some advice if you even need it. Maybe not. Maybe we can't help you with anything. Maybe you're a rock star. So I'm looking forward to it though, man.
Yeah, I think I can always take help from. Yeah.
Hey, everybody. Cool. It's Patrick Downs. I'm the last one, I think, before Frank. Yeah, Ashish, I hope I have zero advice for you today. My brain is kind of empty, so that's a potential. I am a podcast host, hence the mic. I'm a sales enablement person at PandaDoc and mental health advocate. Hopefully, we can use all of those things here today. If anybody's feeling crazy, let me know. Thank you.
Awesome. All right, Ashish, before you jump on, just quickly, I think I'm the only Canadian on the call, so I am in an igloo. That is not, made up. But I sell Microsoft ERP, CRM software. I've been working in the Microsoft ecosystem for about 10 years. I work for a partner called Encore Business Solutions. But the best part of my day, or at least week, is when I get to jump on with Amy and Patrick and help folks out on these 5 on Friday. So that's a lot of fun. Ashish, floor is yours.
Yeah.
Tell kind of the feedback you're looking for and how you want to present today or get feedback.
Sure. Let me give a quick background with what I'm doing and what I'm building and basically where I come from. So I'm in India. I'm not sure if you guys already know. So I'm in India right now and it's nighttime here. This has actually become my daily schedule for the past couple of months because we are selling into US. And I don't have any sales background, but the product I'm building is specifically for sales. So if you know anything about Gong and Chorus, we are building almost a similar type of solution. And Patrick, by the way, I think you can give me a lot of feedback, honestly. So yeah, going back, I was a product manager at SaaS company where I was working very closely with sales. So it did not start by just looking at Gong and thinking, why not we copy them? But it started with my personal experiences of how SaaS people generate a lot of great amount of data in their sales conversations, because I was going to those sales meetings myself with them to help them from the product side. But that information never makes to the top of the organization, or that information is almost never used in making decisions across the organization. So the first statement of problem that we figured out that why can't we use this data that is being generated, which is a real ground intelligence, by talking to the prospective customers in while we take right decisions across the organization. So that was the first encounter of the problem statement. We started looking out for solutions and we figured out that companies like Gong and Chorus have already built a lot of mechanism around it. And obviously we felt that, this is something that can be done as well. We can also do it. Honestly, did not have a lot of idea on how big is the market and all of that when we started thinking about it. But now that I am into this, it still feels that Gong and Chorus are very big, but they have just scratched the surface of what is potentially possible. I still feel that this is going to be more like a CRM market. Just like every sales team needs a CRM today, every sales team should be capturing their conversations to be able to make it available for the entire organization. And the way I like to call it is revealing the truth, or getting the truth out of those conversations, and that truth should help the entire organization to take better decisions. So that's how I want to term it, and look for the future of it. So I think that this is still a CRM kind of market available for this kind of software category. And I feel that everyone eventually will find their niche. I'm very sure that in next 2 years we'll see 10 or 20 more such products coming in this category alone. And I'm sure that people who continue building this in this category with the value proposition, the problem statement that they want to solve for, and building the value for the users, they will find out their own niche on how to sort of survive in this category. That's how I'm looking at it right now. So yes, that's the kind of background. Uh, so two things specifically, I see a lot of people related to sales that will really help me. One, I can show the product, and if anyone here uses Gong or Chorus, I'll be very happy to take their feedback on how do they feel the experience. Is it better, worse, or we need to improve, whatever, right? And the second part would be somewhere around the sales strategy on how we can actually go and start getting the market for ourselves, right? How can we penetrate into a market which is already bombarded by Gong and Chorus, and they have millions of dollars in their account where they can expand? We can't do that. We don't have such resources available for us, right? So these are the two things that I'm looking at from my side. And if anyone wants to add anything from their side, I'll be super happy.
Well, Amy and Patrick, I don't know about you guys, but I'm thinking the second one might be easier and like a better format for this call. I'm not against the demo, but I'm just thinking the demo can take up a lot of time and it's maybe harder to get the feedback, where maybe the market you're going after, how you're going after them, I think you could probably get a lot more feedback from this group. What do you guys think?
Mm-hmm.
Think so as well. That's a good call, Frank.
Yeah, because we can help. I mean, we can do some screen shares and actually look at components of the demo. Like especially one of the things that right out the gate, I know we're going to need to focus on is the differentiators, right? How do you differentiate from Gong and Chorus and all of those other companies? How do you do it better? And then nailing down the problems that you solve, which I think that right out the gate, your intro and kind of explaining what it is that you do said a lot. There's still some like things that I was left like, questioning, like, oh, I wonder how they do that and how do they implement it and what does it look like? So I think on this call, that would be really good to kind of run through some of that and understanding how those are differentiators and how you can use that to build value props and also to communicate, what problems you're solving and clearly articulate that. And I think if you can nail that down, you can utilize all of that within a demo. And it doesn't, the product demo is just showing the flash, right? But it's the kind of the meat and potatoes behind it. So I don't know, like, why don't we jump in? I would say maybe jump in with a typical, like, what's your typical sales process right now? Like, are you cold calling? Are you doing email marketing campaigns? Like, what does it look like, when you're trying to first present this solution to the market?
Sure. Sure. I would like to add 2 points before I answer that question, if that's fine. The first point is I agree that, the first point that I want to ask, it's actually a question. Do any one of us here use Gong or Chorus, or have you seen it?
Well, I know I've used versions of it. And I know my company uses one, I won't name which one, but as an account executive, I don't use it.
Okay.
Patrick?
Yeah.
I use
Patrick or
conversational intelligence from SalesLoft, and I've used both Gong and Chorus at other companies.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Cool.
I've used Gong as a leader.
Great. So I think then you already have, I think probably this group already has that information on how Gong and Chorus works, and I won't get into basics anytime. And I think that what you suggested, should just discussing the differentiator might help actually. Right? What are the two things? We have just two things right now at this point of time, which we think are differentiated as compared to Gong and Chorus. And we can just quickly show you those two things. And obviously we can just proceed to the second part if that's possible.
So let me ask you one quick question, Ashish. Like when you're looking at your total addressable market and then the targets you think you want to go after, are you saying, these are potential customers that would also want or need Gong and Chorus, or we think they're looking at those tools and maybe they aren't a fit, or maybe they're not the right price point, and that's where we fit?
Right. So when we built our ICP, and I understand that ICP keeps on evolving on how your understanding grows, how your market grows, your product grows. The current ICP that we have defined for ourselves are smaller sized companies in B2B SaaS US, which has at least seed amount of funding, and they are around 50 people team. Uh, and now, and we are actually looking out for teams where they have at least 3 or 4 people in sales team, which do proper inside selling, which means demos and all that. And they also have 1 or 2 people in customer support, plus your account management or business development team. So that's how we look at it right now. This is the kind of ICP that we are following. The reason behind choosing these kind of ICP, one that I try to what I understood with looking at Gongs and Chorus customers, they're going after B2B SaaS because leaders in B2B SaaS are early adopters for technology. If I go after any other leader, or it's a sales leader in a recruitment industry, or probably manufacturing industry, they might not be willing to adopt technology a lot. That's my understanding right now. So probably Gong and Chorus have also targeted B2B SaaS right now because these people are early adopters and they sell technology themselves. And the second reason of choosing a smaller company size is because Gong and Chorus are obviously, I think, in my opinion, they have a very fair pricing, which takes a hit at your account, right? It takes significant amount if you're getting Gong and Chorus out. So we can actually get into those companies with smaller check sizes and then slowly build on top.
So I mean, I'll put Jim on the spot, for example. Jim, you were running a sales team, I believe, or leading a sales team, and you would use Gong and saw. I'll make some assumptions. You saw benefits in it. If you were now going to another organization and Ashish was reaching out and you've used Gong, what would your questions be back in terms of, well, I've used Gong, I know it does these things. Why should you look at your product?
Yeah, Ashish, I'll be quite frank. You'd be behind the 8 ball because I fell in love with the product. I really liked it. Right. Not to say that I wouldn't be open, but you would have to overcome my love for this other product. Right. Which is something you're going to be facing. So you're going to have to really help me understand what makes you so much better, because I could tell you immediately what I really liked about the product I was using. And I'm going to naturally want to I'm going to advocate for that product. Right. You would have to come in and nail the value proposition immediately and probably show me something that I didn't know was a problem that I wasn't solving with the other product.
And that's really great feedback, Jim. And I'm also hearing he has to understand his competitors inside and out.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I echo all of this. I love that you're taking the initiative and you're trying to find your market. But I feel like what I haven't understood yet is that point of differentiation, which I know we're going to get into. But to me, like overcoming entrenched familiarity and comfort with a current product, a market leader, and really like hammering and drilling down into what that is and the compelling nature of it, I hope we can provide some insight on today.
Yeah, so I think you've got you've got some opportunity now to help sell us, for example, and we can give you that feedback on what do you feel your differentiators are, and however you want to show that, right? If it's showing something or trying to just articulate it, the floor is yours.
Sure, I'll take 1 more minute here. The ICP that we also define is also included of one more thing. I still believe Gong and Chorus have done great. They're great products. I've looked at the product. I mean, the demos and all of that. They're great products, but they have not captured the entire market. So when we target people, we actually willing to go to those people more. We don't try to replace Gong and Chorus ever. I mean, that's have been our strategy from day one, because we know that this won't be a good time to invest. This won't be a good point to invest a lot of time in replacing them. Rather, go to those people who know about this problem. They know about the solution as well, but they have not yet adopted any solution, including Gong, Chorus, or Salesforce. And that's our sweet spot. Finding this sweet spot has been really difficult, I'll be very honest. The way that we find this sweet spot has been time consuming for us, but we have been able to figure out a few things which we're trying to do over this and find the sweet spot, and then approach to those people and say that, okay, we have a tool, you know about problem, you know about solution, will you be interested in looking at what we can do for you? right? So that's how we. I'll quickly jump to the differentiation part, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, okay, I've shared my screen. I've shared my screen with you. What you can see is the you you can see here is the meeting page. So quickly, two differentiators that we have. One is we have the moments part here. So what we do is we automatically look at the entire conversation and figure out important moments from the call. So I talk to almost 5 Gong users a week, and what I do on these calls is I want to understand from them how they use it, how they exactly use Gong. One of the major reasons why people use Gong is to just go back and look at or hear their calls. That's one of the major reasons why people use Gong, and they use it around 2 times a week. This data has come in from interview of more than 100 Gong users, right? So they use it mostly to go back and hear their calls twice a week. That's the understanding that I have. Now, when they go back and hear the call, they either do it 2 ways. Either they look at uh, the topics that were discussed, which Gong or Chorus detects, or they look at or they increase the speed of the audio and try to hear the entire audio or the conversation or skip through it. So we've got to figure it out is if we are able to summarize or pick up the important moments from the conversation ourselves so that people can just go through that moment around the conversation and quickly they get the gist of the call. So that's why we built an moments model. This is an NLP based model which we have built. So what happens is that it automatically gets most important moment from the call and listed down for you so that you just go through it and then you should be able to get the gist of the call. That's one differentiator that not neither Gong or nor Chorus has, right? In this call, you can only see one differentiator, but I think we have, yeah, this is an example call where you can see a lot of moments that has been detected. So this is an engine that we have built and trained ourselves, and this will get better as more and more people start using it, more and more conversation starts flowing. So we'll keep on improving that. That's one differentiation. Any feedback over there?
How are you defining the moments?
Sure. So these moments are, I'll tell you how we have built this. So probably that should give an idea of how moments are defined. These moments are built through publicly available meetings and then manually pointing out important parts of those moments. So that's how the training has started. But over the period of time, we try to understand the context of the call. So this entire model has been built for sales conversations, and we try to figure out important things in a sales conversation. For example, days. For example, when someone discusses about product, when someone discusses about an issue, when someone discusses about a service, all these things. I mean, all these important factors we have counted in. Then we have put in some sort of layer in between, which looks at the entire sentence, try to extract some meaning out of it, assign a bucket to it, and say that okay, can this bucket be important or not? If this bucket is important, there's a score assigned to it, and then at last it appears on the screen if it is beyond the threshold score. So this kind of training has gone into it. We are very sure that this is scalable. uh, as long as more calls go into this model, this moment part will become bigger and bigger. The ultimate idea that we have here, or the vision here, is that can we build a model that can summarize the entire call to a point where you should be able to send out an email using that, the follow-up email that you send.
Gotcha. So this is 100% machine learning. The person that's using your product isn't inputting like, these are the things that I want to monitor. It's your algorithm
Yes.
determining that. Okay. So is
Yes.
the idea that like at some point this will be smarter than the person using it, so it'll be better at picking up the moments than them defining it themselves? Is that what you're going for?
Yes. And the two ways we're looking at it. One, we understand that currently people review calls in 2 ways, as I shared earlier. They either look at topics that are being detected, or they look at they hear the call by increasing the speed. Now, topics are only as good as the keywords that you input, right? If you're not inputting a keyword for a particular topic, it will not get detected. Increasing the speed of the call and then hearing it through still takes half an hour. Even if you hear it at 2x speed, a 1 hour long call will take you half an hour to listen. But can we get the gist of the conversation ourselves, present it in 10, 15 points, which people can easily skim through and read, and that should make the entire overview of the call in 5 minutes. And then at the end of the day, can we help people to send a summary email using this gist? That's the two longer term goals that we're looking at.
Yeah, if this ends up working, that would be incredible. That would be game changer. Like, but it depends on how much recording goes in, right? So you're just feeding it recordings over and over every day. Yeah,
Yes.
that's awesome.
So we have a team that sort of takes publicly available meetings, try to figure out important moments, how those important moments can be defined through a machine learning model, and can we build that into our model and make use of it.
Okay, so it is human assisted machine learning, right?
Yeah, every machine learning has to be human assisted in the beginning.
Yeah, exactly.
So
okay.
yeah.
So,
Okay.
sorry, I had to walk away. Sorry, I had to walk away. So I'm not going to make you repeat everything you just did. But one of the questions I have really quick is one, I'm assuming this integrates with CRMs in some way.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Just hopping back on the call, like I did, you explaining it at that last, if we could take and condense the call down to like bullet points in 5 minutes, that's huge. Because I can tell you that I still, and a lot of reps still take old school notes on paper, on Word documents, on notepads. And then we have to take those and clean them up and convert them. Or if you do like a GoToMeeting or a Zoom or something, you've got the dialogue from that, but you still have to go through and filter that dialogue or copy and paste it into your CRM or, whatever the case may be, there's still some sort of manual process that's taking place. And it's certainly on the sales rep to go through and write and whittle down all that information to what's pertinent and what's just kind of fluff and, so I think that's a key selling point right there, is anything that you can do to improve efficiency is a winner all day long. But how it's improving the efficiency is the kicker here. So you're taking the core fundamental details, like for instance, BANT, budget, authority, time, need, all of that fun stuff. Competition, those are essentials that we do have to try to discover on these discovery calls. So if you can focus your language surrounding what information you're capturing through this software, through this platform, and you can make sure that you're communicated it in a terminology that the sales world will understand, like how awesome would it be if you were able to capture BANT clearly defined, through your software, and like be able to demonstrate that in some way. So I don't know, right off the bat, that's like one of the things that's bubbling to the top of my mind is how do you put this in sales terminology so that when you're trying to sell this to sales leaders, they understand the 5 minutes efficiency and boom, like if we could qualify your BANT and put it clearly outline all of this gold and structure it in a way that your reps and upper management can look at it and run reports and be like, oh, wow, that's awesome. That's a major problem solver right there, because it's a pain in the ass to dig through opportunities, and executive management isn't doing that. They're not going through thousands of rep opportunities to look at all of their notes and opportunity fields and whatever to see have they qualified these deals or whatever. So if there's a way to bullet point that out and make it really condensed, that would be a big selling feature on the upper management side of a sales team. Just my thoughts.
Got it. That sort of puts a big smile on my face. We are working on something which is called ConQ score. It's called Conversation Quality Score. So what we're going to do is we are going to be able to allow you to rate your conversations, allow you to say that, okay, these are my parameters on which any conversation that happens at a demo stage should be scored, right? I understand that sales conversations are flexible. They need to be flexible. They cannot be scripted every time. But when you go on a sales conversation, it's not that everything is not scripted, right? Around 70% of the sales conversation generally are through the scripts. And then you have 30% which should account for the flexibility that you need. But those 70% that you always need to have on a demo call or let's say on a negotiation call or all of that will allow you to set parameters to score a call at each stage of the sales deal that happens. And that score will be outright available to you to say that, okay, this call is doing great on the parameters that you have set for demo. This call is doing bad on the parameters that you have set for negotiation, right? So we are working on that part. It will start with very basic things, but the vision is to be able to build this into a call scoring mechanism where you don't want to look at everything. One of the things that we have got from salespeople by talking to salespeople is that when things are going good, they don't care about it a lot. Honestly, I mean, this is my understanding. You guys can always tell I'm wrong. When things are going good in a deal, it's not something that they are worried about. They're worried about the deals where things are not going good, right? So if that is something, if you can filter out for them and say, okay, these are the 5 calls where the scoring is not as per the parameters that has been set by you, you got to look into them right away, right? And say that, okay, they should stay on track, or whatever is the issue, let's figure that out.
You made a good point there. So let me ask you, does the parameters that you set for qualifying the scoring the call quality, is that set by the sales team, the leaders of the sales team? Or is that, do you guys have predefined qualities that your artificial intelligence has already identified as high indicators of like a, good scoring call? So that's one thing that sales leaders are going to ask you. How much legwork do they have to put in to customize this for their team? How much of it is like out of the box that you can just transfer over and say, and from our experience and other customers we work with, these are the parameters that we know most sales teams are going to need. And then we can kind of customize them over here and add to them or subtract. And, because I can tell you right up front, like, and I'd be curious to hear your answer on this. Anything like one of the major overhaul, or not overhauls, concerns of acquisition for these sales teams and leaders is how hard it is to onboard that product and build out the back end and customize it so that it fits exactly what that organization needs. And companies that nail that do really well, and companies that don't, and they just kind of dump a product in a software platform and say, here, you figure this out. It's a complicated AI, but you can you can do this. They don't do as well. So walk us through that, because I think that's going to be another differentiator again for you guys. If you can come in and say, hey, we do this all the time. We're experts at this. This is out of the box. These are, areas where we feel like you can add based on, customize it based on your sales team and your methods and, whatever process. And so walk us through that. Like, is that possible? Like, how do you build that?
Yeah, Amy, and if I could add just to the end of what you're saying there, is after you've launched this as well, how easy is it to fine tune it? I know with AI, sometimes it can just take off in its own direction, and a quarter, 2 quarters in, it becomes useless data. Is this easy to kind of redirect?
Right. I think those are some great questions. Ami, let me start by saying this, that you're talking about adoption as a problem, right? Tools are generally a lot complicated, which prevents them getting adopted across the organization, right? And Jim, you're talking more about how flexible the entire system is from, right? Okay, so let me put it this way. We want to build a great flying machine around this part. In terms of analogy, we want to build something that's so easy, and everything should be ideal, right? But we'll start by building more like a bicycle around it, where the end goal has to be fulfilled in the most simplest step that can be done. So you can expect it to be a 2-3 step mechanism that can be set when you are getting onboarded, and it's more like a drag and drop parameter, right? So you have you can define your own parameters which can be dragged and dropped into a simple dashboard, right? That's it. No, nothing more, no more jazz around it. Now, can we go ahead and build a self-learning AI around it? Probably yes. Is it a right time to build a self-learning AI around it? No. The idea should be is that let's start with what we have as basics, and let's get that ROI out for you. And the AI is only as good as the ROI it provides. There's no point on putting AI or ML into something where you don't get an ROI, what you could have got for general rule-based system, right? So the idea is that we make it in a way where the ROI comes to you instantly. At beginning, it will be a human-led model where a human will be defining those parameters. Now that human can be our onboarding manager, or the human can be your sales manager, and we'll have to make sure that the experience of defining those parameters is really, really easy for you. It should not take more than 5 minutes. If you know what is your demo going to look like, if you know your negotiation going to look like, and once that happens, and our system keeps on learning those things, slowly that system can move to a semi ML based model where we can say that now we have humans defining majority of it, but then we have an ML system suggesting what can be done. So I would not say at any point of time this system will overtake human. It will stay.
So I'm gonna stop you there because you're a masterful salesperson already, right? Because the answer to your question is ultimately that the sales leader is going to have like some say in how they set up their preferences and stuff, right? But the kicker here is, and this is the case for all software platforms out there, none of them are perfect at all. They're all going to require human intervention, whether they're machine learning, they could have the most robust machine learning and AI algorithms built into them. They're still going to require the human component. That's something that you're really going to get pushed on, when it comes to pitching this in front of sales leaders. And the way you just explained the human component and the fact that, yeah, there is a human component in the initial setup, this is how it makes sense, the analogy with the bicycle and all of that, that was really good, okay? I think figure out a way to say it with less words, but that was really good because that's an objection you're going to get with this type of software, I think. I don't know, guys, what do you think on that? I think that is a differentiator for sure, but you will find objections surrounding like the onboarding, the initial rollout, how heavy is this setup in the process, and if you nail these points now, you can actually turn these into value props and use them to your benefit. So I don't know, everyone else can weigh in on that. I'll shut up.
Yeah, I love the analogy. It was very clear no matter what role someone had in the company. And additionally, I liked how the words that stuck out were the click and drag. So it wasn't like I'm in there coding or doing all these things that seemed like, oh gosh, it'll be a real slog to do. It made it seem very clear to me that it's super simple and it's not going to be burdensome. So excellent points. And I agree with the tightening the crispness of it, but excellent way to explain it.
Okay, great. So if you don't have any more questions, we can jump to the second differentiator that we think we have. Okay.
I did want to not forget to make a point that you talked about the calls that aren't great being flagged, and those are the only ones care about. I want to reframe that to say the calls that are awesome could be used for training and for modeling future and onboarding. I don't want them to be in a bucket on the wayside. I'm just reframing how you were saying it.
I think that's a great idea, actually. Yeah, now I think about it, it's a great idea to use it that. Yes, I agree too.
Yeah, it's like the positive, you're not like,
Yes.
you're spinning it, the positivity into how it can solve like negative problems that people have. So that was really good. Good point, Catherine.
Great. Okay. Coming to the second part, let me quickly jump to it. No, cool. Just pardon me. Yeah. So I'm sure, like, people who have already used Gong and Chorus, right? They already would have looked how topics are compared, right? How do you see that, okay, which rep has spoken what, for how much time and all of that. And if you know about Gong and Chorus, you would also know that one of the problem statements that they want to solve for is how do you reduce the gap between best performing representative and someone who is not doing good, right? So there's a huge gap in any team. They follow a bell curve. There is someone who's performing really good, then there are a few people who are not doing really good, right? So there's a gap, and then minimizing that gap is a huge value proposition that Gong and Chorus has. One thing that I myself personally felt, and this is also from the discussion that I do with people using Gong and Chorus, they really don't know how can they minimize this gap. I have hundreds of recordings around the discussion that I have done with Gong users. They know about the value proposition. They know that, okay, this is a problem that exists. But when you ask them that, okay, how have you been able to reduce that gap yourself by using Gong? They don't have answers, or they don't have clear understanding on how to do it. One of the simplest way, and that's where again the approach that we always have at Convin is that an AI is only useful if it is giving you ROI. So one of the simplest thing that we found to solve this problem is why not just show the clear comparison between a best performing representative and you and yourself, right? And that should at least give me a direction where I can start, right? And I found this missing everywhere. I'm not sure if they have added it right now. Might or might not be, but they did not have it when I looked at it. So what we're doing is we're allowing you to be able to compare yourself with someone else. So let's say I'm Nisarg, someone else is probably Jayesh. Yeah, cool. So what it does is it automatically creates a comparison chart on how you are doing versus Jayesh. Now, if you think about conversation that happens as sales conversations, there are two things you can improve in sales conversation. One is the content that you talk about, right? Just like you pointed, if I can condense the content, that would be really great, right? So the content that you're talking about on those sales conversation is really great, right? It should be great, and that can be improved, that can be worked upon. The second part, which can be improved in any sales conversation, is how actually you're doing the conversation, right? What if on both of these two angles, we can present a very clear cut differentiation between what best performing representative is doing versus what you are doing? Can that act as a starting point for anyone to say that, okay, I don't need to actually follow everything, but at least I have a direction on where I can start moving, and then obviously learn more and explore more and gain more expertise, right? So that's why, keeping all of that in mind, we have built this idea where we say that, okay, just choose yourself, just choose the best performing rep. Everyone knows who is the best performing rep, right? And then see which direction they are headed in versus where you are headed, right? You can see how much time they spend on what particular topic, in what percentage of the calls these topics are mentioned, right?
Can I interrupt you there for a second? Because I think that when you're talking to sales leaders, this is when you need to put yourself in their brain. Because so a couple things. If you're prospecting to reps, definitely do not show this feature, because people will be like,
Okay.
I don't want other people seeing like how sucky I am. And it could be, but for sales leaders, this is huge. But what I would do is take this and use this as a way to explain how the ROI works, but with less words. So basically what you're able to do here is compare and contrast a really strong rep with like maybe a new person, right? And you can kind of see the scale of how they're evolving and getting better over time. But what I would say here is this is a way to take your strong reps and use them as a mentor and a model for your less experienced new reps, right? Sales enablement, I mean, Patrick can tell you this all day long. If you have someone that is really good at what they do and they're nailing their calls and they're able to, get down to customer needs and the nitty gritty and then close on that, like if they're a strong closer and maybe you have someone that's weak on closing, that's a really good way to kind of take what you're doing and apply it on like here, sales enablement, use this. You've got this strong person over here that is good, really good at closing. This person over here is great at everything, but they're struggling with closing. How can we put those two people together in a happy little marriage and help them improve the area that they're weak? So when you're selling this software, you're not selling it as software, as a platform, a product, okay? You're selling how it solves problems. So that's a really great value prop for a sales leader, is to say, this guy is really strong over here, this person's struggling in these areas. How can we make this a symbiotic relationship and help this person get some mentoring, aspect of it, and they can help over here, or, whatever the case may be, or maybe that rep listens to that person's calls to understand how they're nailing that close. So I don't know, other people can weigh in, but I would say that when you're demoing, don't talk about the technology behind it. Talk about how it's going to solve that VP of sales problems with, reps that are new or struggling, or, and how to close that gap, create a story behind it. And that's a great way to do that.
Yeah, man, this makes me want to cry. I'm looking at this right now and I'm actually overcome with emotion, because I'm telling you, my number one problem is there's not enough of me to go around. I am so busy. I work 16-hour days a lot of the week. And people come to me like, this rep is having an issue. I might have 10 minutes in a week to try and diagnose what's wrong. And just looking at this, I can be like, I know exactly what's wrong. And done. Now I can have a coaching plan that I've used for these things in the past and just assign it to them. You just cut out a week's worth of work. It's incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll add to that too. So about a month ago, I got a call from my boss's boss's boss, and I thought I was in trouble. I was like, ugh. Just came out of my first quarter. I was like, oh man, it's chopping block time. But realistically, what it was is because I was really successful in one component of my business. And I grew partner engagement by double digits over the previous quarter. And they were like, how did you do that? And they immediately saw that like there was something that I did there that was setting me apart in my role, and that could be of value for new reps that have been hired that are trying to do the same thing. Like if I could give them advice on what I did to find success in that component of my business, that would be huge. So they saw that, they were able to see that metric and to say, hey, Amy, I've got this new rep that just started. Do you mind blocking off some time to jump on a call with her to walk her through how you were able to kind of grow that portion of your business? So again, that's another like solid value prop for what it is that you're doing here when you're talking to sales leaders, is to put yourself in their shoes and talk as little about how like the technology behind it, the AIs, how all that works and how it can help them. So, I mean, Patrick is prime example of that, you know, like there's only one of him,
Yeah.
There's only one sales VP, and he's got all these managers reporting to him. You know, he can't be in 20 places at once. And this is a really easy way for someone like that to log in and have kind of a general over sense of specifically how certain reps are performing, or even certain teams. I don't know, maybe you could even boil it down to something like that, but this is cool.
Okay.
Where's
I
Really
think
everyone?
appreciate that.
there's your quote there. Like you saved me a week's worth of work, right? Like there's
Yeah.
your testimonial right there.
Mhm.
Yeah, include that I want to cry part. And include the emotion.
Definitely.
Well, and
You
Jim,
made Patrick Downs want to cry.
Jim, you looked like you reconnected, and right when you were reconnecting, Amy was saying, don't show this to reps, but show this to the management and senior management team. So I'm assuming, if you have this or had this type of, capability, you'd be jumping all over it as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. Encore is doing some work in our neighborhood, putting in new meters, and I just, all the electricity went out in the house right as Ashish was at the point of revealing this. But yeah, I mean, I would echo what Patrick said, because, the same boat. This would be really strong for sales enablement. It's really strong for the sales leaders. Yeah, you've got my interest.
Great. I really appreciate that. What I think one point that I've gathered from here is that talking about technology and talking about use case, I mean, I should choose over more like a use case from a sales leader point of view whenever I try to show this, because that's when they will resonate of what I'm trying to help them accomplish. So
Yeah, and
I
if you're
think I have
talking to
a
like
great case.
sales ops too, like Ashish, one of the things that you can do is modify how you demo depending on what team you're presenting to. So if you're talking to a sales op guy, they might want to get into the nitty gritty of the technology. They want to know the APIs and how it integrates and all of that. And that's fine, because you know that audience and you can get deeper technically. But most sales leaders, they don't care. They just want it to work. They just want to know that whatever it is going to get them results. It's going to make them look good. They're going to hit their numbers, So when you transition the technology behind it, which is really cool, but you find solid use cases and like value props to describe it when you're talking about it and demoing it, you're gonna win all day long.
Yeah.
So just make them all cry,
Yeah.
That's your
Fast,
goal.
easy, and insightful. Those would be the things that I need. I need access to this quickly. I need it to give me data that helps me understand what's going on, so that I can make decisions on actions that I can take to course correct. And I just need it to be drop dead simple.
Sure. I think I agree to that. Totally agree to that. There's this third point which we have not built out as yet, and that I still feel is a differentiation, or is going to be the differentiation that we're coming up. So if you look at Gong and Chorus, and I believe Jim, you have already looked at it in detail. Uh, these tools essentially, and our own tool right now also, is a lot about surfacing data. Just getting data out of the conversation. How's the data turned into a solution to the problem that a sales leader has? That bridge has not been formed yet at all the places. That bridge still lacks, even in Gong, even in Chorus, and I agree that it still lacks in our own product. And we know the areas where it lacks. So we are in a process of converting this data to the solution that salespeople really, to the problems that salespeople really have. And we are still building out on this. We have taken certain areas where we have identified that, okay, this data is not useful, but when you figure out a solution using this data and then present it as a solution to a problem statement, that becomes really, really useful. Just like you pointed out, right? Once after seeing this, can I build my coaching plans? Right. And then for Patrick, it would be really great if he can just 4 or 5 clicks and he is able to build out a coaching plan that the other rep can follow. So that's the solution to a problem that Patrick is facing. This data might not be the solution to a problem that Patrick is facing, right? So we are into that stage where we are doing this transition in the product, where we have identified this as a common problem statement across all the existing products in the market. And that's one of the major reasons that these products are not being used on a daily basis. Hundreds of representatives, everyone saying that they use this product only twice a week, and sales leader even more or less once a month when they have to review the deals at max. So that's where these products are lacking, and we're moving in that direction. We want to try and create that differentiator for us.
Why do you think
Is
that's
that
happening?
making sense?
Why do you think that there's a lack of adoption to some of these tools in organizations? Do you think it's because people don't want to be monitored, or they just don't have time to farm the data and turn it into tangible, actionable reports and things of that nature? What, from your standpoint, what do you think is the main problem that we're not solving right now with the products that are out there?
Sure. Can I quickly get my charger and answer that? I am really sorry if I don't get my charger, it will die off. Just give me 10 seconds.
Yeah, get your
Cool.
charger.
Thanks.
Go right ahead. This is really cool. I like it a lot.
I think I've heard there's a few other, like 2 or 3 other tools out there that are, there's the 2 juggernauts, and then I think there's a few small players.
Wingman.
Yeah.
I think there's one out of the UK too.
There is one out of the UK. It's Richard or crap.
Ashish, while you stepped away, we were just saying we're all aware of the 2 kind of market leaders, but our understanding is there's definitely some players that are out there, and there's some other startups. So it's not that no one else is seeing that there's opportunity here, but I'm sure they're all taking a different approach.
Refract, is that a competitor of yours? They're the ones out of the
Yes.
UK. Yeah.
Yes, they are. So as I said, I'm fairly sure that this market is going to be boomed with products next 2 years, and that's when you will see the true adoption and everything coming out. To answer your question, Amy, my understanding has been, and this is again with talking to representatives that are using these products, is that initially they are hesitant. So the first 1 month, when this is forced upon them, or when this is adopted at an organization level by some leader, they sort of are hesitant. But as soon as they start getting the value out of it, their hesitation goes away, right? Now let me point out the current value that everyone gets using tools like this, at least at a representative level. I'm not talking about the leader level, but at a representative level, the most important value that these people get is the comfort that they have a recording in place which they can go and look at if they need it. Right? That's the feeling of comfort that they get, and that's the most important value proposition for them at this point of time. And that's why once or twice a week they need to look at something that they discussed in demos or calls, and they go back and look at it. So my understanding is, over the period of time, when people start recognizing the value of such tools in place, where your data is getting used not only for sales team and betterment of sales teams, but across the organization for making better product decisions, making better product strategy or sales strategy and marketing strategy as well. That's time when people will start thinking of it as a de facto mode of doing sales, saying that this is just like CRM. You record your data into CRM, why not record your conversations? I feel that we are moving to that space, but it will take around 2 to 3 years to move to that space.
Yeah. So I think, so one thing I'll say right there, and I'm like putting myself in the account executive shoes, right? And I know that right now, like SDRs, inside sales reps utilize this probably more than account executives, I would think. And that's because sometimes account executives, when we go on calls, they are not scripted. They are just all over the place. I mean, like we're qualifying BANT, maybe we already have parts of BANT, maybe it's just a relational conversation. And so it's hard to bucket those conversations into a very clear pattern sometimes. And that's probably part of it, probably why there's a lower level of adoption, I would think, on the account executive side in the discovery calls and things of that nature. The cold calling, it's probably a far easier to have those teams adopt. So I would say from a go-to-market strategy, like I would start by going in and really like attacking the SDR teams, inside sales teams first, because the adoption rate's going to be easier because they are tending to follow a script. Their goal is to book a meeting. It's not necessarily deep dive discovery. And then, scaling up that organization into the discovery mode, because you're not going to convince all account executives and even sales leaders out there to allow technology to record their calls. And it will come in time, but here's why. I go off on a freaking tangent on my calls sometimes. Like, I don't necessarily know that I want my boss to hear some of the crap I talk about, because it's like not essential, you know what I mean? But it builds character and stuff like that. So if you approach this from a completely different standpoint than some of your competitors and saying, oh yeah, but it's important to record the calls and here's why, and you approach it from like hit the nail on the head, like drill into that right out of the gate. Like, yeah, I know, you don't want us in your business. You're out there doing your job and you're probably bantering and having some fun conversations with customers. And, you're not necessarily going to want, an algorithm monitoring all of that for you. But if you're doing so amazing at what you're doing and your game is here and everyone else's is here, why would you not want to showcase that and allow people in your world a little bit? Do you see how the psychology behind that is totally different? It's not like you suck, so you should be like, and over time you'll get better. It's you're freaking amazing. And I'm sure your sales reps are amazing, but there's going to be other people that they're going to be the outliers. There's going to be the new reps, that need that, motivation and mentoring from the people that are doing it really well. That's your spin on it. Because no sales rep wants to be told, like, listen to your calls and you'll get better. Like we all like to say we want to put the work in, right? But like there's a lot of ego involved in this sales world. And as a sales rep, we have to counteract our customers' egos and try to figure out how to sell smartly and psychologically to them, so we're not wounding them. Oh, your product sucks that you're using currently. Buy ours instead. You can't do that. But so getting around that ego, I think, would differentiate you as a company, and educating people on how this could be utilized from a mentoring aspect and really drilling into that with videos and video content and all of your marketing. I think that you'll find a positive boost there, because you're not going into it saying like, yeah, this is like training you to be better. And instead it's saying, hey, take what's working and show everyone else how to do that. Does that make sense? I mean, I don't know, everyone else can weigh in on that, but that's the vibe I'm getting that would probably differentiate you from the way others are approaching this and the lack of adoption, right? Because you want high adoption rate so that you don't have churn.
True.
Crickets? Nothing. Come on, guys.
Well, I was
Y'all
going
know
to say,
you're dropping F-bombs on calls. Come on.
Well, Amy, I'll tell you, they're listening to your calls for the AEs. So
No, they're not. They're not listening to the gym. Not through my cell phone.
No. And that's one of the challenges. I think a lot of that changed when everyone went remote. I get what Amy's saying. I used, the competitors tool as more of a training tool and industry and competitive insights. That's what I used them the most for, right? The AEs, I trust them a little bit more. I didn't necessarily care how they got from A to B, but I was looking for things that were working really well, and then we're sharing those as best practices. I think, yeah, Ashish, you're doing a good job of summing up what this tool offers. You just need to, I think you've got a really good ICP dialed in. And how do you differentiate yourself from the competitors for that ICP specifically? And with the ICP that you have, you're going to have some I mean, everybody's busy, right? But you're going to be dealing with some executives that are having to wear a lot of hats, and just having the data pushed and easy is going to be helpful. And then also the value proposition for ops, for enablement, and for the AEs and for the SDRs are going to all be different. And it's really important that you understand what those are and that you're able to present them quickly and efficiently, and really speak the language of the person you're talking to.
Yeah, Ashish,
Sure.
one quick question for you. Is your sales team all based in India with you, or do you have some folks in North America selling?
I am the only salesperson in the team.
You're the founder, the developer, and the seller.
Yeah. So I
Yeah,
have
many hats.
I have three more founders with me. So I mean, we all are developers, but I have done product management as well, and I've worked with sales teams as well. So it was pretty easy for me to sort of switch into this sales role. So I'm doing sales, marketing, everything else, and there are three people focusing core on technology.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude. You should focus on being a visionary in this field, and just like start releasing content and building everything around that, being the new shiny object. And you made a comment earlier that I thought was really strong, where you acknowledged that there was a gap that still existed even in what you guys are doing, that the bridge hasn't been completely built yet. Stuff like that is going to set you apart too, and it's going to give you people trust the honesty, and just being forthcoming with where you're not strong, so I think that if you as a one person shop, like you start kind of releasing some content and some spin and educating the market, you'll start to break in a little bit more. And then that's all resources that you can share with your potential customers too. Like, hey, I did this podcast, or I did this video on, cleaning the data, or, like very specific chunks about the product and stuff like that. And because it is different and it's new and it's just you. So the more you can broadcast you, because you do a really really good job of articulating it, that'll help.
Yeah, I'm thinking of Lavender and how they've just done their 10 days of, not Christmas, but their 10 days of releases. And I know they have other people behind the scenes, but the Will team, like they've just blown up in the last few months with like really getting out there and promoting their information and their product development. So I'm thinking of you in a similar capacity, to echo what Amy said, just really showcasing your articulation and the value you're providing, and starting the education process.
I should probably know this, Ashish, and I know we're a little bit over time, but really quickly, like, do you guys have a freemium model? Like, how does it work right now? Can people trial it?
So we have a free trial model. We can offer 1 month up to free trial. We do a free trial in a very specific way. That's something that we can probably discuss on somewhere later. It's a different model of how do we do free trial, but it's a 1 month free trial. And then after that, it's $40 to $45 per user per month.
Okay, interesting.
And there's no additional platform fee or anything like that. Now, I mean, I always get that, that selling cheaper might come as a cheap product as well. I'm not really sure. I mean, we are in India, we have less cost. So why not pass that to someone else who can benefit?
Yeah.
That's how I look at it.
I think you're one of the benefits of what you're doing is you, and don't forget that, because you came on this, and I mean, I was really impressed. I had to step away and came back and still understood what you were talking about. So, you need to duplicate yourself like 20,000 times with just content and putting out little clips here and there, and figuring out a way to, to really attack that go-to-market strategy with just the value forward concept. And I think you'll do really well. And, stay in touch with us too. If you have questions, or you want to, like, if you create like a demo and you want to run through it again or something like that, I mean, we're all here to support you moving forward in any way we can. So kudos to you.
Sure.
Thanks for coming on and showing us.
Yeah, you're a first guest in India time zone.
Oh, great. That's really great to hear.
Well, I know we're a little bit over time, so I want to be respectful of everybody's time. It's November 13th. We have folks from like all over, like East Vermont, we got down Florida, a couple in Texas, India, Canada. I mean, nothing could go wrong.
Don't say that. There's still hours left in this day, Francois. Jeez. So that's
Awesome.
cool. Happy
Well,
Friday the 13th.
Thanks for making time
Yeah.
to present, Ashish, Katherine, Jim. I really appreciate you guys coming on.
Yeah, it was really fun. I'm
Yeah,
glad
Thank
to
you
be
for
here.
having me. Yeah.
I know, it was great.
And I'll be posting something shortly, and
Okay.
the recording will get uploaded shortly too. So thanks again, and everybody have
Yeah.
a fantastic weekend.
Thanks,
Thanks,
bye.
Everybody,
Thanks,
thanks for coming on,
everybody.
Ashish. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, Jim.
Bye.